Founded in 1865 to combat the rise of counterfeit currency in the United States, the Secret Service has evolved to the first line of defense for the president, the first family, and visiting heads of state. They used advanced training and tactics to keep their protectees safe and secure. So, join me for today's video as we take a look at 15 of the most incredible Secret Service tactics. Let's begin. Number 15. CAT. Not to be confused with the furry feline, CAT stands for Counter Assault Team. Oftentimes when we think of the Secret Service, we think of stoic men and women in suits and sunglasses equipped with earpieces and communication devices in their sleeves. And while that stereotype may be true in some cases, the Secret Service's CAT division is a lot less incognito. Any immediate threat to the president's safety is a top priority, and CAT is the first on the scene with a full arsenal of weapons and intelligence whenever necessary. These agents will do everything from employ counter-sniper unit scans of an area for hidden threats to engage those threats directly, laying down a barrage of suppressive fire while the rest of the team gets POTUS out of the situation. So while the counter-assault team may not be a private army, it's as close as they're gonna get. But being assigned to the elite counter-assault team is almost next to impossible, as only 10% of those who go through the strict application process are accepted. They're tough, strong, strike fast and firm, and have been trained to use heavy weaponry under the harshest of conditions. The CAT team designated for full-time presidential escort duty is given the call sign Hawkeye, which will be followed by the president's Secret Service code names, with Obama's detail being known as Hawkeye Renegade and Trump's Hawkeye Mogul. And so the next time you witness the American president's motorcade driving down Pennsylvania Avenue, you can rest assured that Hawkeye is in one of the black vans in the area. Number 14. 10-minute medicine. While there are thousands of Secret Service agents working for the United States government, only a select few can work for the Presidential Protection Division, and those select few are all trained in something called 10-minute medicine. This means they can do everything humanly possible to keep the president alive until they can receive specialized medical attention in the event of an emergency. This means that when they travel, they're never more than 10 miles away from a trauma center, and an agent will be posted at the hospital who knows the operating room staff. But to play it extra safe, the group traveling with the president will have multiple bags of blood ready for transfusion should the need arise. It may sound a little silly, but this sort of training was given shortly after an assassination attempt was made on Ronald Reagan in 1981. Reagan was shot, and while the plan was to bring him home to the White House, he was suffering from internal bleeding of the lungs. They rerouted Reagan to the hospital where he underwent life-saving surgery for the next several hours, and chances are he would not have survived that initial ride home. Number 13. Protective intelligence. The Secret Service can spend hours, days, and even weeks assessing potential threats, and doing that means a lot more than just sweeping a room for bombs and bugs and yelling "clear" into an earpiece. They take every little threat seriously, and I do mean little. If a Secret Service agent even hears the whisper of a joke implying any potential harm to the president, they will quite literally sift through every aspect of your life down to the most minute detail, leaving no stone unturned. This painstaking process is known as protective intelligence, and it can involve tracking down and interviewing friends, neighbors, co-workers, associates, even looking at your internet history, whatever it takes to answer the question, is this person serious? And anyone who finds themselves on the receiving end of protective intelligence, agents can choose one of three options for them. Simply leave them with a warning, have them committed for a psychiatric evaluation, or slap them with a nice Class E felony with up to 3 years in federal prison. All roads seem to lead back to Ronald Reagan, and so this type of protective intelligence proved to be adequate when the Secret Service interviewed a man who had made a repeated threatening call to the president and determined he was both mentally ill and an alcoholic, and due to the circumstances spared him any serious prosecution. Number 12. Handwriting Analysis. While most of the world has made the switch over to email, the leader of the free world isn't immune to handwritten letters, be they fan mail or hate mail. And writing an anonymous letter to the president seems like a cheeky enough idea. It could be a great way to land yourself in big boy jail. But how would they ever find you? Isn't that the point of being anonymous? Well, unlucky for you, the Secret Service has an array of modern handwriting analysis techniques available to them. They've teamed up with the FBI to create a one-of-a-kind ink library that can provide them with enough data to make your head spin. Included in that library are samples of every ink ever produced in the last 100 years. They have everything from falsified documents from accounting ledgers to autographed baseballs, all of which have been busted open by the library using their three-stage investigation process. It's as crazy as it is impressive. So should the president get a strange, cryptic, or threatening letter from an anonymous source, the Secret Service can dive right in, even getting in touch with the ink manufacturers to help narrow down their search for subjects. And rest assured, they won't stop until they find them. Number 11. Hotel detail. The American president does a whole lot of traveling. In his first year of office alone, Barack Obama set the travel record by making 52 trips to 58 countries. But when they're overseas with friends and family, they need to stay somewhere, and they're not going to just walk into any old hotel for the night. The Secret Service does their due diligence sometimes weeks in advance of a presidential hotel stay. Not only are they surveying the area for potential threats, but they're also sweeping the rooms for bugs, bombs, and the occasional listening device. Then they do a pretty hefty background check on every employee that's set to work during the boss's stay, and if anyone on staff has a criminal record, the Secret Service will demand the hotel manager switch their shift. And the fun doesn't stop there, because the Secret Service is going to stay there too, and they're not just taking one or two rooms next to the president. Instead, the elite team will take over the entire floor above and below the president, and commandeer the elevators for their own private use, and bring along their own repairman on the off chance the president gets stuck in the elevator. Number 10. Hobbies. Accompanied by Secret Service agents 24 hours a day, the president is never alone. That includes doctor visits and even going to the bathroom. But that also means the president's hobbies become the Secret Service's hobbies too. George W. Bush would famously go for runs every morning during his 2 terms and would be flanked by the Secret Service on all sides. He would even have to tell them his route 24 hours in advance so they could scout and clear the area beforehand. But perhaps even wilder was Bill Clinton, who apparently enjoyed horseback riding, and so even a 20-year Secret Service veteran would have to pony up and ride beside him despite having no prior experience. It's safe to say that no amount of tactical training could ever prepare you for something like that. Number 9. Water training. The job of a Secret Service member doesn't have to be restricted to land. George W. Bush was big on boating, and the Hawaii-born Barack Obama was set to hang 10 on the occasional surf session. And so that's when their security detail goes from secret agents to lifeguards on duty. The protectors of the president have to be ready for any and every situation, no matter how out of the ordinary it may appear, which is why they're all highly trained in water rescue detail. They need to make sure that both the current and former heads of state stay safe in the water, which is why they train in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina in special aquatic maneuvers for extraction. And out of the 3,200 people who make up the Special Agents Division, it's said that less than 100 of them make the cut to go for a dip. Much of this training is still shrouded in wet secrecy, but just don't expect them to hop in a submarine to chase down the bad guys or deck a shark in the nose. Number 8. More money, more problems. While technically not a tactic, most people may not know that the Secret Service was originally created as a branch of the U.S. Treasury Department to fight against the currency counterfeiting that was sweeping the nation at the end of the Civil War. So the job of the agency was to help stabilize the economy and financial system by stopping these newfound counterfeiters and chucking them behind bars, because at that time about a third of the money in circulation was fake. It may not be the glamorous job portrayed in movies and television, but it was important nonetheless. Cut to today, and of the 7,000 Secret Service members, most of them are investigating crimes in the financial system, both at home and abroad. It's been said that in the last 10 years alone, the Secret Service has made about 50,000 arrests for counterfeiting, cyber, and financial crimes, and seized nearly $2 billion in fake currency. That's a lot of scratch. And as technology evolves, their role becomes even more important as the bad guys, hackers, and crypto kings learn to work their way around this system, holding not just people but companies for ransom. But on top of seizing all that fake money, the agency has claimed to have prevented the potential loss of about $53 billion as well. Nowadays, the agency reports to the Department of Homeland Security instead of its old pals at the Treasury. But either way, they're not just saving lives, they're saving money too. Number 7. Working the rope. Being in the Secret Service means a whole lot of standing, and one of their favorite pastimes is known as working the rope, which is just a fancy term for guard duty. Crowds of civilians tend to crowd the White House on any given day, and even more like to crowd them during press events and visits. And it's in these moments that a potential bad guy could be hiding in plain sight. And while the Secret Service may be trained to put down threats to the boss, they're even better at preventing the threat altogether. When they work the rope, they're constantly scanning the crowd, keeping their head on a swivel and their eyes peeled. The biggest threat in these crowds is a gun, and so the Secret Service is highly trained to spot the many telltale signs of a would-be shooter. They can tell if the subject is right or left-handed based on something as simple as where they wear their jewelry, or even which hand they use to cover their mouth when they cough. Once they learn that dominant side, they'll see if the body stiffens as they move to help keep the gun concealed, especially if the clothes are on the baggy side. Number 6. Rolling. One seemingly odd tactic of the Secret Service is to always be filming. But they're doing a lot more than just making a movie. As if they were a sports team studying their rivals, the agency will watch footage from previous incidents as part of their training, with one of the more notorious incidents being the very public and very graphic assassination. While this may have been an awful moment in American history, the Secret Service have certainly learned a lot from it, and studying a video like that is going to tell you where you went wrong beyond keeping the president in a top-down limousine. Studying these kinds of films also help them study the crowd dispersal and control, and even see where the threat came from along with any accomplices. One of the more recent incidents happened when someone threw something at former President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and thanks to the video, they were able to find the person and arrest them. Number 5. The Doomsday Fleet. While Air Force One may be synonymous with the American presidency and the title of a solid Harrison Ford movie, it's just one of many aircraft in the presidential fleet. Yep, there's Air Force Two, which carries the vice president, but then there's the whole other fleet that the Air Force tries to keep out of sight from the public. The United States has been building and equipping a special set of planes since the 1960s, whose sole purpose has been to evacuate the president in the event of a nuclear attack and command the war from wherever they are. And while these aircraft may not be a total secret, they're rarely ever mentioned, and the Air Force has never publicly acknowledged owning them, even though they're just a phone call away on the president's bright red telephone. But plenty of people have sifted through years of information, declassified records, interviews, and historical documents to put together the secret of this secret fleet. And while Air Force One is simply a call sign for any aircraft carrying the president, the typical behemoth Boeing models aren't the only planes in the fleet. There are multiple helicopters and Gulfstreams that former presidents have been known to use, and they'll sometimes even send multiples of the same model for decoys. You'll never quite know which one the president is in, and that's the point. Then there's the air support that can be called in just a matter of minutes, with one of the more well-known instances being directly after the September 11th attacks, when President George W. Bush's Air Force One was quickly flanked by escorting F-16 Fighting Falcons. Number 4. Event security. The White House isn't the only venue the Secret Service is tasked with patrolling and protecting. In 1998, President Bill Clinton established the National Special Security Event Procedure to help federal agencies prevent terrorist attacks at all major events like the Super Bowl and even the Academy Awards. Whether you love sports and film or not, there's no denying that these high-profile events bring thousands of people together on a grand and televised stage, which could be a hot target for terrorists. It's not hard for something to go wrong here and for chaos to quickly ensue, so who better to protect the populace than all the president's men? And in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks, especially, President George W. Bush recognized the importance of such procedures and placed the Secret Service in charge of NSSE security and put the FBI in charge of intelligence and counterterrorism. Number 3. Meal prep. Guns, germs, and steel aren't the only way to bring down world leaders. It may come off as rudimentary, but poisons are still a legitimate threat used by terrorists and intelligence agencies around the world. But the thing about poison is, you usually have to eat, and so what better way to get it into the system than through food? Well, that's what the Secret Service is thinking at least. And so while the president doesn't have a poison tester, the White House chefs have all been carefully vetted, and every bite of food is prepared under the ever-watchful yet sunglass-clad eyes of the Secret Service. No way is arsenic or rat poison getting into the presidential pot roast. But what happens when they're on the move? When the president travels, Navy stewards come along to cook for them and the family. And all of those fun little photo ops where the president is surrounded by good people and better food, chances are that it's all going to be thrown out, because if the Secret Service didn't see it prepared, it could be filled to the brim with the bad stuff. But in a fun turn of events, if the president has a hankering for pizza or burgers, then the men in black will just have it delivered to another address, because chances are if the restaurant doesn't know who it's for, then it reduces the danger. Number 2. Systema. Yes, all members of the Secret Service are highly trained in weapons use, having deadly accuracy with firearms like the Remington 870 shotgun, FN P90 machine guns, and the Heckler & Koch MP5 and various pistols. But what about those moments in close or crowded quarters? Because guns can't always solve everything. That's why the Secret Service is all trained in hand-to-hand combat, specifically Systema. Systema is a brutal yet calculated Russian martial art, which is used by the Spetsnaz and KGB as well. Simply translated to the system in English, Systema is unlike most martial arts. It abandons things like katas, gis, and tournaments, and adopts an anything-goes mentality. Systema involves controlling the attacker's levers, arms, legs, and elbows, giving the user the supreme upper hand as they bend their opponent's appendages in ways that nature never intended. Not only that, but the Russian martial art also involves defending against weapons and weapon disarmament. So if someone comes at a Secret Service member with a gun and all they have is their hands, the agent can likely disarm the assailant, quickly bring them to the ground, and gain and maintain control. And maybe start breaking some bones. No, it's not pretty, and people trained in Systema are trained to deal with multiple attackers as well. But like so many other martial arts, Systema trains the practitioner to remain calm, cool, and collected under pressure to stay safe and win the fight. For many people, Secret Service included, it can be a way of life. But don't let the chill factor fool you, because while the goal of Systema is to disarm, it can easily be used to maim and kill. Number 1. The Beast. Also known as the first car, or its codename Stagecoach, the Beast is the limo belonging to the President of the United States, whoever that may be at the time. This jet black limo was designed and built by Cadillac and allegedly cost around $16 million. A new and improved version of the 2009 model, the Beast is fully armored and hermetically sealed against any possible attack. The exterior walls are 200 millimeters thick, the glass 130 millimeters thick, and a 5-inch thick body, which brings the vehicle's curb weight to about 9 tons. This vehicle really lives up to its name, because the majority of the car is outfitted with military-grade armor capable of withstanding the largest bullets in production. The doors are 8 inches thick and weigh the equivalent of the cabin door of a Boeing 757 jet. Literally nothing is getting in here without the president's say-so. The fun doesn't stop there either, because the Beast's fuel tank is protected by an explosion prevention foam and can withstand a direct hit from an RPG. And the Kevlar reinforced tires can't be damaged by projectiles or blasts. The limo also has a secure environmental system that keeps everyone safe inside from chemicals and gas attacks, and a steady oxygen supply, and carries emergency blood banks filled with the president's blood type as well. And while this vehicle is well equipped for defense, it does have some offensive capabilities, including pump-action shotguns, tear gas launchers, a night vision camera, and even an oil slick. Awesome. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.